Hello and good morning, everyone. Thank you for being with everyone to join in rejoicing the time and discipline to practice calm, abiding meditation. So thank you for doing that and being here, and also stay in that state. Why rise up from that state? But I'm going to give a short talk here at the request of one of the viewers who has asked to address the topic of Shunyata and compassion. Shunyata means emptiness, and compassion. The idea of Shunyata or emptiness is very high point of result of good meditation. That you really see no self that is real, let alone any of the problems that we think they are really do not exist, except due to many causes, conditions. But in reality, the thing that we see are not unitary, independent, permanently existing. So if a person understands this to be the case, then the actual notion of self that we usually identify with the name and the body and the mind, probably you can't deny these three being the most important things, because the body and the name, if you take these two out, which the body is definitely body, not self, because the body itself is not a monolithic entity. Body itself is composite of food and clothes and everything that our body is made out of is nevertheless not self. It's body. It's a body is like a bus body is not bus. The engine in it. If you take the engine out of it, the bus body is not called bus, it's called body of the bus. But when the engine is in the body, in the bus, then there is a bus, I suppose, a car. But without the body, the engine is not the bus. Without the engine, the body of the bus is not a bus. So they are mutually dependent. Whatever is dependently arising is empty of inherent existence. So Shunyata means being able to see how things are not inherently existing. For instance, the body is not inherently John or Peter or Mary or Janice or whatever, because if it is, then everybody will know straight away as they see it. They say, oh, there's Janice. You don't have to introduce, I am Janice. Because they know the body is Janice, but they don't. So the body without a name, the body isn't anything but I suppose for human beings can tell whether it's a male or female or a few things like that. Otherwise, they couldn't tell it's Janus. So you can see the body is not a self. By itself, but when it's labeled to as Janice and I am Janice, then there seems to be a Janice who is the name and who is the body, so to speak. But yet that is the basis of all the grasping to I am the body, I am Janice, I am Italian, I am Israeli, you are Palestinian. This becomes root cause of sufferings. When people identify themselves with one and aversion to the other, then when people see you, they don't know you're Israeli or Palestinian. But as soon as I say I'm Palestinian, the Israeli one guy straight away thinks, oh, there is the other one. Straight away the name conjures up the appearance of what of the body that is not the name. That is not the name. The body itself is you couldn't tell whether it's Israeli or Palestinian. So it's better that you didn't tell I am until you disclose your I am. There was no problem. But as soon as you say I'm, I'm whatever it is, the others thinks that we are that. You can see how much the name to which we become attached to as I am is your often cause of our sufferings. So I and I am, we think it's real and permanent. We don't think we are merely labeled. We don't think we are independently labeled, but we are not independently existing anything. So the teaching of Shunyata means emptiness. Is we are actually empty of independent, inherently, permanently existing self. It's very difficult to realize this, for sure. That's why if you meditate, calm abiding a long time, you will gain what we call insight. The insight is usually insight of no self, insight of no independent self, and inside of even those things that are there are all impermanent, You could be Israeli, but once you come to Australia and become naturalized, you get an Australian, passport. You say, I'm Australian, You can say I'm Israeli Australian, but still because if you say Australian, you probably would with more chance of traveling everywhere, no problem. But as soon as you're Israeli or whatever, names attached to it, particularly and all the group of people are usually labeled as something like in the USA, they will ban, say, people from 20 countries to the country just because they bear that name, So often people have to learn to disassociate themselves from I am this, I'm that. As soon as you do not say I am, the problem doesn't persist. So Shunyata, emptiness, is in many ways try to affirm that we are pure light. We are not independently existing person or the name I am. So I am is a root cause of all sufferings. And so if you realize that, and then you develop compassion to those who don't see that, and that is why Shunyata and compassion are related, then you are much more intellectually and emotionally gifted to develop compassion to those who think they are I am. Even though they are merely labeled, they are just temporarily relative to this, but they concretely think that I am, and I hate those people. I am this, my people suffered under, and this is what all the wars are fought, unfortunately. And so, therefore, your question of asking me to address this, how Shunyata, realizing Shunyata, helps to develop compassion, is a very good one, because if that is the highest compassion, the compassion that is supported by understanding of emptiness of self, and the things. And people are suffering because they do not know the root cause of suffering is grasping to self as I am, as he is, as they are, as independent existing. Not knowing this, therefore they fight between two people, and we should be all brothers and sisters. The world is big enough and productive enough to feed us all, but we are just doing all kinds of inconceivable damage and destructions of war because we are attached to the notion, one color or creed or name or nationality or ethnicity. We are and they are not. And I hate these people because they did too this. I, as a Tibetan, remember very clearly that coming as a refugee, I even as a young boy used to hate what I was led to believe, that who did what to our people. And I sometimes continue to still believe that. But when I remember these teachings, that how all sufferings are caused by I am, so therefore my aversion to the people who have never met or seen, who took my country, but yet I have this aversion, anger towards them. So all the sufferings are caused by this fundamental division, because you don't have division unless you take I am. So therefore this ahankara, they call in Sanskrit, ahankara means this, aham means I am, kara means doer, I am is doer of creator of all sufferings. But if you do not raise your I am, I want, I need this, if you don't just do that, and more you can reduce the craving for I am, or because being able to reduce your craving of I am, cultivate humility, cultivate respect to the other, and then maybe other is not willing to give up their I am. And that is very common. Most people can't. Most people are completely suffering ahankara. I am. Whether it's between you and your anyone or anything, is all to do with I am. I have to say my opinion. How dare you say that to us as whatever junior staff or female staff, or some people have this very strong feeling that they have been put down by the other gender or other class of people, and that's certainly true. Samsara is full of ahankaras, because one is, if there's two ahankaras, there will be conflict anyway. One is bad enough to himself, as the other is doing that. There's both are mutually corrosive ahankaras, So if your meditation registers this clarity and then develop that, you may even just conceptual glimpses of that how I am is a fundamental cause of sufferings, and it is unavoidable too if you are animate, if you're sentient beings. I am, If you're not sentient being like rock or pillar or tree, there's no I am. Even then, you cut a tree, you can see the tree is suffering, but tree doesn't bite you, or doesn't do anything. The tree is suffering, but tree doesn't know. But we as a human beings, due to our I am, that's my house, that's my land, that's my job, or my possession, or whatever we have between. Even when two people in living in a very harmonious relationship, when many all over that they just totally misunderstanding apart each other's way, it's because they're both of their selfishness has become more important than love for the other. And vice versa, if that happens from the other, and that's why two people couldn't live in peace. Now, if your meditation is helping you to develop calm enough of mind that sees this teaching, that self is merely labeled to the color and the body, and whatever characteristic you say, the gender, you can say name. Name, you can't really tell. Most of the names are fairly masculine, fairly feminine, but some names you don't know whether it's man's name or female's name. So even name look pretty genderless. So you can't really authenticate your maleness from your name. Maybe your first name can authenticate maleness from the name, but middle one doesn't. Third or second surname definitely doesn't. Because both female and male both have family name Smith or Johnson or Lightfoot, or I don't know. You got all kinds of weird surnames. Lightfoot, Bull. When I saw some young little girl, and 12-year-old girl, her surname is Bull. I can't believe her surname is Bull. So what is it in the name that is self? It doesn't even correspond to your gender. Bull. I mean, how do people accept such surnames, even if they're fathers? They say, Dad, I want to tell my surname. I'm not a bull. I'm a cow. She should say, I'm Stephanie Cow. Then it sounds pretty good, Then it matches, Otherwise, Stephanie Bull, So what is in the name that authenticates or validates self? No, it doesn't. and what does it validate? The self that is in the body, the skin, the nose, the flesh, the wetness in the body, the blood in the body. What are you talking about, the body? Its body is just composites of all this gas, liquid, and solid together, and that is pretty identical to each of us. Maybe you and my weight will be identical. So how can we authenticate? You are George and I'm Choedak. How can you tell? Because both of our weight the same, and both have gas, liquid, and maybe only the thin layer of the skin they can tell I'm Asian, you are not. But that only says who's Asian and who's Caucasian. It doesn't say who's Choedak is George. So therefore, you can see the body in itself. If you to look at it, there is no self that is the body. Body itself is inanimate object, skin, flesh, bone, muscles, sinews, bone, marrow, and organs and intestine, all the things like that. And none of them looks like George. None of them looks like Stephanie. So neither in the name nor in the body. Now the last one we can try our best is the mind. Oh, that's a much. Now when we come to the mind, it's a little bit easier because mind doesn't have color and shape and weight or any of that. So you couldn't really. So as soon as we say the mind, it's even more obscure. Where is the self? That is the mind. It seems the awareness of the mind. If the mind is luminous and conscious, you have that, I have that, but we could really not. If I don't bring my name with the I and the mind, I couldn't associate this mind to be uniquely me. It's not a single entity. So what does it mean to realize emptiness is philosophically failing to find the independently inherently existing self, neither in the name nor in the body nor in the mind. Because when you look at the mind, you have to search the mind. Because when you search the name, you can search the name when it was given. Historically, there's a reason why you were given the first name and the middle name and the third name. Usually the third surname you don't have a choice because you just have to be Bull, because your father happened to be Bull, so you're just Bull. You just have chance to choose mother's surname. I don't know why. Why don't you choose mother's surname? It might be Cow. Even she had to get rid of her surname, and she had to adopt the husband's surname. So that shows how very little is there in the name that is us. So there's nothing in the surname. And if you look at the first name or the second name, there's usually named after someone. Not you. Named after someone, sometimes grandma or sometimes grandpa or sometimes, I don't know, godfather or I don't know. Well, you ask your parents, they'll tell you why they gave you this first name and in the middle name, maybe like that. So neither of those are your names. They're named after someone else whose name is not that either. So therefore, yet people are so attached to the name that I am. And through this, all of their sufferings are machinated. Incredible. So not realizing this shunyata means zero. Shunya in Sanskrit is zero. Shunyata is zero-ness, emptiness. Ta is ness of it. Empty is shunya. Shunya means big circle, zero. If you say, do you draw this? Shunya means big zero. Big zero. So a big zero is big zero, but it's a whole zero, It's complete zero. So there's zero problem if there is no I am. So behaviorally we must practice. If whoever is selfless, we usually respect him or her. We really highly put them in our amidst our respect, and we put them before us because they're so selfless. They do this for you, they do this for others. They just totally forget themselves. They do for him or her or other people. Anyone who's behaviorally selfless, we really say he's so selfless. So you don't have to be a believer of any religion. But anyone who's selfless, we highly regard them, don't we? So if practically and behaviorally, physically, verbally, mentally, if anyone is acting selflessly, we highly regard it. So he's empty of self. He forgot to take a share for himself. He forgot about himself. He's busy doing for the sake of others. Therefore, he is selfless. Why? When he's selfless, he's practicing compassion. He's fit to practice compassion to others who are less fortunate than we are. So this is where the compassion comes in. When you are able to realize emptiness of self, you behaviorally become selfless, and then you are able to empower yourself to be compassionate, to serve and help others who are not in a sign of realizing that. They may be hard on you, they may be really difficult on you, but still your ability enables you to practice compassion because you realize shunyata. You realize emptiness. Even what you do doesn't come at a huge expense to you. For you, everything is, what you do also is not truly existing. What you truly do is dependently necessary because someone needs to show compassion to others. And since there's only two, you don't wait for the other to do. If you are selfless, you do it because you are selfless. You try to do the show the selflessly, and then the practice compassion. So what happens is that sometimes you will see yourself, oh, it was very easy to practice compassion. Why? Because you saw the sufferings of the other, and you choose not to suffer. You know how not to suffer because you're not about I am. You're not about what I can be to others. This is the selflessness. This is the shunyata of self, is when you get rid of your self-concern, you're fit to be free to benefit others. Incredible. All of a sudden, your whole power is unleashed to benefit others out of compassion because you're not suffering from I am. Because you're not suffering from I am or I want, you are totally at the disposal of others behaviorally, and philosophically also you know that what you're doing, even compassionate acts, you need to show compassion to who's suffering. If someone isn't suffering suffering, we cannot practice compassion to them. Yeah. So if someone is suffering in front of you, not because they don't have clothes or food, just because they're cognitively obscure, thinking they are their color, they are their gender, they are their possessions, their positions, their qualification, their whatever knowledge or whatever responsibility or whatever the person they are, you can see they're so rigid. The more the person is something to himself, the more he or she becomes that much rigid. You can see they're so caught up in there. There's so little room for their flexibility. You can see they're gagged by who they are. They do not think of what can I be for the other by stepping out of this box. Stepping out of this I am, if I can be this instead for him, for her, for that. So then the person is now able to do something for the benefit of others because he's not full of himself who he is. He's able to, what can I can be for you, you know. So most people don't have such emotional or intellectual fitness to understand this level. They're so full of themselves. Ahankara. Kara means doer. He's doer of his own righteousness, judgment, and how things ought to be this way. There's only one thing. They just couldn't see beyond that box. Everything to them is a big fixed box, because they think that box is real. They don't realize it's relative to this thing is relative to the other. There is no fixed thing. So people say, oh, it depends what I wear, what hat I put on, you know. You put on the hat of a mother, or put on the hat of a school teacher, or put a hat of or whatever you are, then you have a totally different way of perceiving, you know. Whether you have few transferable hat, that will help you. When you haven't got many transferable hat, you have only one hat, you are stuck. You are stuck in that position, and you couldn't help anyone beyond that box. So this is why ahankara, I am doer of all things. Your suffering is originated by that ahankara. Most people aren't able to get out of that box, and that is the cause of suffering. And then in you, when you have the little bit benefit of not doing that, you have compassion to the others who are caught up in that. And then your compassion opens up the space that you previously weren't getting, you wanted to get out of. You straight away, you create the space empty. You're not full of that space, you totally empty the space. And then you come totally now open to anything can happen. Now you're empty of self. You can be a servant, you can be a carer, you can be a guide, you can be a nurse, you can be a comforter, you can be a listener, you can be an unconditional supporter to someone because you went out of it. One of my university professors, when he retired, he kept it quiet to himself. One day I said, "What do you do, Tissa? You're so busy." He says, "I do just odd jobs, whatever necessary." He does like Meals on Wheels, 4 days a week. Totally, Why? He doesn't think of himself a professor. He doesn't think of himself as a senior lecturer. He's totally out of. He says. I said, "That's really good. So wonderful. You don't think yourself as some professor or something." He says, "Yeah, that's what the Buddha taught. You should practice selflessness. I don't think the Meals on Wheel is selfless, but at least there's some help to people. People need to do that." And and of course he's a Buddhist, so he's Sri Lankan, And I was talking to him. He said, "Oh, that's really good." He says, "Oh, we should do that anyway." He says, "I don't teach people how to be selfless because I don't have the role to teach. I was just a language teacher, Sanskrit or Pali teacher, but I get all the reading from the Pali and Sanskrit that you should practice selflessness out of compassion." He says, "In Australia, you really can do a lot. You just have 2 minutes of time to talk to the person you're delivering the food, but the small kind of courtesy you give with your tenderness and care and love makes huge difference. It's not the meal that you deliver, it's just how you deliver and what few words you speak to the person and listen to them, or whether some of them can't even open the plastic containers very well. He opens them well and maybe takes 2 minutes. Small things like that. Act of compassion. Yeah. We're talking about compassion, meaning that you just stop being you as being whatever title I was referring to, and he just goes, "This is a volunteer." And there's a volunteer organization, and that organize that. But they need people like him who actually goes out. Thankfully, his many years of work as a professor has made him to be reasonably comfortable, not having to do anything. But he realized he's got more time to do that because then it enables him to show compassion, kindness to those who doesn't have anyone in the family or anyone doing those things for them. But people, the Meals on Wheels usually is facilitated by volunteers. So when we talk about compassion, of course here these are practical things that you do compassionately. But there are a lot of times you show the compassion through the prism of realizing emptiness, or at least glimpsing of emptiness. You will be able to see how pertinent it is to combine emptiness and compassion. Sometimes we don't call emptiness, we call it wisdom with compassion. So wisdom and compassion is like the two wings of the same bird. And without both wings flapping together, no matter how strong one is, without the other you couldn't fly. There are lots of people who's practicing lots of compassion, but without the wisdom discerning the nature of things. And so the realizing emptiness is the other wing, other wing. Most people don't have emotional, intellectual I would say, fitness to command to understand emptiness. But once you start meditating, like calm body meditation, your mind becomes very calm and clear, and so then you could see that how this meditation therefore enables you to see that feelings are impermanent, all compounded, all conditioned things are impermanent. Everything that we, all our sufferings is caused by our own affliction. You can see these things very clearly. You do no longer see the suffering caused by people or their actions. That's when you don't have meditation. You always point finger at someone else, as if they did this to you. But when you meditate, you realize all sufferings are caused by our own negative, destructive emotions. But even those negative, destructive emotions do not truly exist either. They're all conditioned by bad thoughts, bad habits, bad companions, lack of good ideas, and their mind is so deluded. But once you know how to prevent the mind from becoming deluded, even delusion is not really real, it's permanent. Delusion is also temporary, they are conditioned, they are adventitious. So therefore there is no bad habits, there's no genetic things that are stuck in you, there are no bad habits that are permanent in you. Thoughts, physical, emotional, verbal behavior are all changeable, and so therefore we need to practice compassionate to ourselves. We should see your habit is not real. Your habit is shunyata, emptiness. You didn't have the habit at all, but yet you picked somewhere along the way, and it got become so sedimented. But now you can unsediment it. You can undo it, and it takes a while to undo it. But once you know, then your habit is not you. Not only you are not you, nor is your habit you. So be kind to yourself. So show compassion to see the emptiness of your own habit. Because people really lump themselves thinking they are this and they are doomed or they're finished because they are. There's nothing that is you that is permanent. If you really meditate, you should remember you have to learn how all conditioned things are impermanent, emotional, physical habits included. So don't lump that either with you or someone you think he is like that always, as he will never change type of attitude. No, they will change, So when we start to change our own attitude, then our perception of people and ourselves changes. And that's really kind, that's really compassionate, because emptiness sometimes means impermanent, If you think something is impermanent, that means not remaining the same, then it's less and less real about the thing. It's changing. You don't see the sign of the habit, sign of the attitude. So you can see your habit is also empty of true existence. So don't think you are you, let alone your habit is you. It may seem that way because you don't seem to do anything different towards you or your attitude, therefore they don't seem to be changing. But once you start meditating and once you start registering this intellectual confidence, you can see even your habits are slowly droppable. So you have no habit of meditating, you try to do a habit of meditating, and the habit of meditating will slowly improve your intellectual, your mental, your subjective mental functionality. It will increase the sharpness and penetrativeness of your mind, and then this can slowly break the walls of habits. So you can prove that your habit is not real, not permanent, it's impermanent. So whatever is impermanent will slowly prove to be lack of independent existence. So therefore you can see that emptiness of your habit, emptiness of you. People can also notice that you are changing, you also changing, so where is the habit? See, there's no sign of the habit being truly existing. The habit is mere label. Some people say, I'm lazy, I didn't do that very well. Then they think that's they're going to be like always with whatever they do. That is the problem. So we need to be compassionate to our past for not being, for not taking initiative to change, and not belting ourselves in that way, but slowly making progress. And then you're starting to look at this, so you can start to change. You develop the confidence, gentleness towards your past. There isn't really you that is in the past. There is not even there's you in this present. So there isn't a permanent past. Permanent. You can't say a permanent past. Past means no longer permanent. But yet people who are not able to recover from the past, they're still stuck in the past. You see? Why? They're not practicing compassion. They cannot practice compassion because they haven't seen the sign of Shunyata. They haven't seen the sign of the emptiness of their habits. But if they look back, the habit was not there in the first place. It was developed only, say, a couple of years ago, and then slowly developed that, and now you're smoking every day. You're going through 2 boxes of cigarette every day. When did that start? Not when you were young. It started only when you start going out with those people. Yeah, so there wasn't the habit there. There was none of the smoking cigarette habit at all, let alone 2 packets a day, 2 packets a week, or whatever it is. So it was developed from nothing to something, and now that something could be dissolved. Yeah, be kind to yourself. Have some respect to that you are not that habit. People in conscious mind, they know they should drop the habit. But yet they don't want to take initiative. So that's what makes it difficult to break through. And so we need to be very compassionate to fellow people and who could not change their habits and could not see the emptiness of that or sign of breaking that into lack of any sign left. It's really possible that the whole sky is completely clouded. You couldn't believe that there was a chance that the sun will come through. Some days they don't, unfortunately. Other days, it was only for around 2 hours, it was so dark, cloudy, and all of a sudden disappeared after 2 hours. So things will, so we have to be kind and show compassion to those who do not see things, possibility of changing, even though the change is inevitable. So, and therefore, those who are a little bit impatient and a little bit irritated by things, we have to be compassionate to them. And they too will change. And if your attitude towards them is like this, it definitely will change. They are cause of your compassion. Because you know their suffering and problem are only created by this fallacious wrong view called I am. And the moment the person is starting to meditate and try to disassociate themselves with the body and the name and the past, and then they will register this clarity and awareness and insight of no self. And it will take a while, but first one needs to, therefore, the more acquainted you become to the concept of emptiness, in correct teaching of emptiness, there's a danger of people falling in a nihilistic way. So the emptiness is not nothingness. Emptiness is assertively for what it is. It is what it is rather than what it isn't. Thank you, everyone. That's all we have time for. Thank you for listening and being here with everyone. So we'll conclude here with the dedication merits. Thank you. Follow Cheda Reba Vera Noya Ranza Veras Bimbo Mejinger Freely with the generation. Thank you, everyone.